Okay, in this video on looking for maps in an edc16 using my SAT layout 1.9 hex stump, I'm going to look for the duration maps. Now at the moment I'm focused on the boost maps, so I'm just going to click to the left of the main part of the file that's there and keep looking for something that might look like a duration. One of the clues very often with duration is the size of the main body of the maps. If you've looked at edc15s, you will know that there are 6 maps, and they're usually something like a 10 by 10 followed by 15 by 19s or 19 by 15s followed by another 10 by 9 or a 10 by 10, or it's somewhere in that order. So what we're looking for is an obvious, looks like I've gone past it, so I'm going to skip back. Teach me to go too fast, won't it? So somewhere along here I must have gone past it, so anybody with eagle eyes would have seen me go past and wondered why I went straight past. I should pay more attention to what I'm doing, shouldn't I? There we go, that looks like it. So there, we found it. So that looks like a 15 by 19, so that seems reasonable. That's a 15 by 19. Now of course, had Winolds not found these, they might be a little bit more difficult to spot, but Winolds has found something that it thinks is a map. So let's have a look. It's found a 10 by 10 there, 15 by 19, 15 by 19, so that's given us 3 maps. There's another one there, that would be 4, another one there, that would be 5, and another one there, which is probably 6. And we've got a few other silly little things getting in the way. If you look, it says Bosch 3 there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that marker by simply right clicking. Same there, I'm going to delete that marker. So right clicking and delete, that's out of the way. Now I can see that map reasonably clearly. So I've got a 10 by 10 there, and then 1, 2, 3, let's jump, 4, and then that one there. So I've got 6 maps. So they look like they're probably my duration maps that I'm looking for. To find out, I'll just double click on that one and have a look. Now at first glance that does look a bit like a duration map, but what I'll do to be sure is I'll have a look at the 3D. Now again, it's not that clear cut, but that does look vaguely like a duration map in 3D, so I'll say, well yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking for, I think. Let's have a look at what we've got here. A bit awkward, this one. This could be revs per minute, or this could be revs per minute, and I often say to people the clue is in the 1000 area, but this one starts at 1000 and so does this one. But the fact that this one goes 800, 1000 certainly suggests that this is probably the revs per minute axis. So I'll put for that one engine speed, and in there I'll put revs per minute, and we don't need to change anything else, so I'll just press enter. Now another reason why this one is probably not revs per minute is it goes a little bit high. It's running to 5500, but sometimes files do run that high on revs per minute, even on diesels. Right, so let's have a look. What have we got here? That is probably injection quantity then, isn't it? So we'll call that IQ for now. That is going to be milligrams per stroke, which means that this will be 0.01, and I'll give it 1 decimal place for now. So that will give me 55 milligrams, which seems quite reasonable. Now this is going to need a factor, not necessarily an offset, but it will need a factor. Now let's just give it a name first. So let's call it duration 0. It's the first map, but the first map is usually called 0 by the Bosch designers. So the description, well, it's usually described as crankshaft angle, and then in here the unit would be degrees. I hate going and finding a little degree sign and putting a little degree sign in there, so I rarely ever bother. Right, what have we got down here? We've got 1. Now let's try the same figure that we used in edc15, so that would be 0.02343. 7. and we may well want some decimal point places, so perhaps we'll try a couple of those. Might need more, but we'll leave it at a couple for now. Right, that's given us some reasonable looking figures. Assuming that the factor we've used is the correct factor, then that's given us some reasonable looking figures. We've got some nice low figures down here, and then we're going up to some quite high figures, surprisingly high up here. They do seem fairly high considering, but then of course that's all tied in with the size of the injectors, flow rates and everything else, so maybe it's not surprising, maybe that's perfectly normal for this engine. Right, well okay, let's assume that one's okay. Let's go and look at another one, but pick a 15 by 19. So there we go. Right, now we know that this one should be IQ, or at least we believe that's what it's going to be. So that's going to be milligrams per stroke, in which case this is going to be 0.01, and we'll have a couple of, no, we'll just have one I think after the decimal point. I'll go straight to the y-axis on here because it obviously has to be the other one, and we know that that is engine speed. And we know that we're going to call that revs per minute, and we know we don't need to change anything on here. Now I could now click on map and go straight to the central data. I very rarely ever do that when I'm going through files. I like to just pop out and have a quick look back and check that what I'm looking at makes sense to me. So those figures look okay, these figures look okay, so right, I'll pop back in. Right, we think that is going to be duration 1. We think that that is going to be crankshaft angle. So we'll try our 0.023437 as we did on the last one. And I think we'll try a couple of decimal points and we'll say okay. Now let's have a look at what we've got. Well, we're just up into the 40s again like we were on the last one, so reasonably long duration. They often stop around 32, 33 on these PD engines, but we've got quite a long duration there. Okay, but that all seems okay, and that gives us duration 1. So let's fly through these pretty quick. So we'll say that that one is IQ. Oh, and for these bits, I'll just get the numbers so that they make sense. 0.01. I'll go for 1 decimal point. I'll go straight onto there, call that engine speed in revs per minute. I'll go straight to the map this time, and I'll put in there 0.023437, and I'll go straight to here and give it a couple of decimal points, and I will call it duration 2. And click to say okay. Right, that looks all okay. Right, I'm just speeding these up a little bit so that this video doesn't take too long. So let's go straight in there at this point instead. We'll call that one duration 3. We'll go for 0.023437. I'm not filling it all in at the moment. I'm just whizzing through some outline points. I'll have a couple of points there. I'll just come out and then I'll go back in on that one. So I'll call that one injection quantity. I'll go for 0.01. I'll give that one okay. And I'll just quickly put in there revs per minute as a reminder for now. I won't worry about the rest. So I'll call that duration 3. Right, I'll go straight into that one. I'll call that one duration 4. 0.023437. Give it a couple of points, that seems reasonable, right? So it's okay on that. I'll leave the revs, well no I won't leave it, I'll just quickly put in there revs per minute so we know what we're talking about. I'll just pop into that one, put IQ 0.01. I will of course go back to these later and tidy them up a little bit, but not when the video is running, so that they're all sorted out of the way, because I just want to run through the whole lot pretty quickly. And then there's our last one then, so that should be our duration map 5. So again we should have 0.023437. couple of decimal points, that seems okay. Let's just jump out and have a quick look. Quite low values at there. Engine speeds for low revs as well, so I'll just put in there for now revs per minute, and I'll go in there and put injection quantity, and I'll put in there 0.01, and I'll put in there 1 and click OK. That's just enough for me to have a quick look at the map in front of me. As I say, I'll go back later and tidy them up a little bit. So there's the rest of that map. So that's your 5 duration maps. So almost the same in terms of layout as an edc16. We're using the same factor. So we've got duration 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 6 maps. So all we need next is the duration selector, and then we've pretty much got duration tied up. So I'll look for the selector next. So I'll stop there.